So today on the Dig podcast, I want to introduce you to Richie Crawford. Richie is a creative, first and foremost, and I'm delighted to have him here today. He's a creative manager at the famous McElhinneys in Ballybofey. McElhinneys, just to give you a wee bit of background, they're just renowned throughout the UK and Ireland, and probably further afield. Richie will be able to tell us more whenever we get chatting, but they're renowned for having the best window displays, the best in-store visual merchandising, and ever since the online kind of space has grown for McElhinneys, we see that creativity right through all of their online content as well. They have won many, many awards, but the latest one is such an achievement. As McElhinney celebrated their 50th year in business, they won the Drapers Independent Christmas Window Award for 2021. And I know how significant that is just from my history in retail and always having Drapers at the foremost, holding it up high there. Once you're credited by Drapers, you've made it, in my opinion. So it was brilliant to see them winning that. But Richie has said himself that winning the award as a family-run business, which is what McElhinney's is, it was so very much appreciated, and winning with the For the Dreamers concept, which is we'll talk about after, was a nod to the founder, John McElhinney, and it meant even more because of that. So can't wait to hear all about that and how you actually go about winning an award with Drapers. Richie has this ability to translate ideas into reality with visual merchandising, and that's not easy, and it's something that I know a lot of business owners struggle with, so I know you're going to get so much value from it. He has the ability to create exciting and cost-effective, which is really, really important for business owners at the moment, visual displays, which not only attract customer attention, but also result in increased sales, which is what it's all about as well. He's always staying on top of emerging trends and prides himself on attention to detail. So Richie's on the podcast today to talk all things creativity and how we must use all the resources available we have to make an impact with our customers, both online and in store. Welcome to the Dig podcast. I am your host, Caroline O'Neill, and I love to discuss all things online marketing, managing money, collaborations, making that killer pitch, and developing that product that will make millions, as well as so many other topics that will inspire you in your business. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Dig podcast. It's my absolute privilege to speak to thousands of you each week. Remember, I love to know when you've listened, so screenshot the episode and post on social, tagging me on Dig for Success and Dig Mama, and I will reshare with my audience. I'd also love if you could leave a review for the Dig podcast on whatever your favourite platform is, Apple, Spotify or YouTube. I love to see all your reviews. So thank you so much, Richie, for being here.
No, at all, Caroline. Thanks so much for having me. I'm nervous but very excited to kind of share some tips and tricks because visual is all I've ever known. So I'm so passionate about it and I'm delighted to be able to talk about it today.
So tell us, Richie, like obviously we know, well, we'll hear a wee bit more and I've introduced you in the role you're in now, but how did you get to be the creative manager at McElhinney's? I'm sure you just didn't land in that position.
Well, it all started whenever I was 18. Just when I was coming out of school, I wanted to take a break just before I went to college. So it took a year out and I actually started to work in retail. And kind of from the minute I started, I was like, oh, this visual role seems like something I'd really like to do. So did a little bit and then did a little bit more. And then I started college then the year after. So we're still working part-time in retail. And I did marketing in college, which I felt really benefited me as a visual because it really made me focus on the business side as much as the creative side, which I think sometimes there's a little bit of a gap between. And then I stuck at that job and grew and got a little bit more experience. And then I kind of got to a point within that position where I couldn't grow anymore. So I'd made the decision to move on to another company. And I moved on as a full-time visual merchandiser, and it was a total different type of business. Still retail, still fashion, but it was much more hands-on. We were painting and up ladders and creating stuff, and like it was like everything I wanted visual to be. And then I got a bit of managerial experience within that role, which I think really benefited me within the visual position as well, because it made me look at it from not just a creative point of view, but a managerial point of view and the wholehearted business point of view. And like you said, like visual is about making money, and that's the main thing. So all the experience I gained there kind of took me on to my time with McElhinney's. So whenever I first started here, I actually moved here as a manager. Again, did the managerial role for a short time, but slowly started to work along with the creative director at the time, do a few little bit of visual things, involved a little bit of events and stuff. And then it just kind of happened over time that I naturally kind of fell into the role. So I was very lucky to get it, and I'm very proud to get it, because to have the role within McElhinneys as a family-run business and have such autonomy to do so many creative things is just amazing. And I think that John is so inspiring when it comes to that, because he kind of leads from the front, and he's very much like, just go for it if you believe in it. And he always trusts us to kind of put the right message across to the customers. So there's lots of different experience in there, like very much high street focus whenever I first started, and then kind of full on what a visual role is then in between times, and then totally getting to run away with myself now as I started with McElhinneys and really go full on creative, which is amazing.
Unreal. And it's great to hear that journey as well for people who are starting out, and maybe you kind of have to work your way up the ladder, don't you? Gaining experience as you go along in all the different areas.
Oh, definitely. Like, and I think the one thing that I will say, if anybody is kind of starting out and wanting to get into visual, it's there's a lot of opportunity there, but I think the main thing is you have to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to say, oh look, could I get involved, or could I help the visual, or like for myself, like I was kind of mind if I did the window this time, just, and like a lot of my coursework that I did in college, I focused it on visual, so I did my dissertation on visual merchandising. Like I've made it my focus. But you do have to put yourself out there, so don't be afraid to do it. It's a bit of a scary step, but I think once you do it, you'll gain so much experience, because people are so appreciative to get someone who's loves visual.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And so there'll be people listening and they maybe haven't heard, they're maybe doing this already, but actually don't know it's called visual merchandising. But what does visual merchandising mean? Richie, I know this is like such a big question, but and why is it important, especially in today's world? But can you just give a wee overview for people who maybe aren't sure about this?
Yeah, so as you say, like a lot of people are doing it, maybe not realizing they're doing it, but the easiest way, like when I was actually thinking about this, I was like, how do you tell people what visual merchandising is? And it's basically how we present our product to a customer, and the processes we go through to that end goal of like having an exciting environment for our customer. So like if you break it down to its most basic form, that's what it is. There's lots of things in between, but it's how we place our customer in front of our, or it's how we place our product in front of our customer, basically. But as you say, there's lots of people doing it, maybe just don't know they are doing it. And I think there's lots of tools that people can put into their toolkit to help them with their visual journey, because they might do something and think, oh, that just looks good, and they might not really know the reasons why, because there's a lot of psychology behind a lot of visual stuff. There's a reason why we put things in certain places, and so there's a lot more to it, I think, that maybe people don't realize, but it is very sensory and all those other things, but it's basically how we present the product to a customer.
Yes, and when we say product, it's also about, I suppose there's a lot of people listening who are service-based businesses as well, but it's equally as important for them, isn't it? Like, especially online.
Definitely, because a lot of the time it is, like I say, it's a lot of it's sensory. So it's not just visual. It's like if you go into like a service-based, even office space, it's about how you feel when you go in. So what type of music that you have, the lighting that's in that space, the smell that's in the room as well. It's all of those things. Like, and visual takes in so much of that. So like if there's a store you really love going into it, you might just think you really like it, but I could be sure that there's a visual team behind that putting a lot of work into how soft the lighting is and how bright the lighting is, or how fast the music is, or how slow the music is. That's all a part of the visual merchandising role, although it's not necessarily visual, it's sensory in the terms of that you feel comfortable in that shopping experience.
Oh my God, that's so true. And Richie, I'll tell you a story. I used to have a shop in Dungannon, and it was, you know, we stocked like really good designer brands there, but there was an unreal chippy across the road, right? So we used to get our lunch from there, and I used to have this feeling of when you came into my shop that all you could smell was chips at lunchtime. And it was true, and that wasn't appropriate when you're selling Hugo Boss and Tommy Hilfiger, that you would smell chips when you go in there. So we used to have a new rule that, you know, if if it was a chippy day, that we either ate it in the chippy or when they went in the back, that the doors were closed right the whole way into the store and that all the rubbish was disposed of straight away. Because, you know, I know it was my side, but that's what I remember now when you're saying that, the smell aspect. And if your service-based business going into accountants or solicitors, you know, all those visual and sensory things are so important. So people maybe aren't paying attention to that. And I think customers expect this now, don't they, really? This nice experience.
Oh, 100%. Like, and I think especially for the way business has changed so much over the past few years, it was like that experience and how you feel when you go into a space is so important, because that can be the make or break of it. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, you can be like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna head on, and you might not realize the reason behind it, but like whenever you go in and feel comfortable in a space, you could be damn sure it's all of those elements that we've just spoken. And like simple things like, and like the likes of a supermarket, like so like when you're going to Tesco's and all the rest of it, like I just listen for it. There is like different levels of music. So whenever they're super busy, you'll find the music is a little bit faster. Whenever they're a little bit quieter, the music is a little bit slower. And the reason for that is so they can either move customers too quickly or have customers move at a slower pace. And it's all like subconsciously, but that's the reason behind those things. And that adapt to any business. Again, if you know you have peaks and troughs and you need to move customers through a little bit quicker, you can do it with little side notes like the volume of your music or the tempo of your music.
Unreal. So there is a psychology behind all of this.
100%. 100%.
Amazing. That's amazing. Right. So can we now tell, like, everybody listens to the Dig podcast for actionable tips, Richie. So I want you to be able to tell us as much as you can about visual merchandising. Can you give us any tips? First of all, I know from my past experience and from people that I speak to, the struggle to know how to get started with visual merchandising and like their windows and their in-store displays. Like, how do you actually think of an idea, or where does it come from? How did this start?
What I can the starting process for me a lot of the time is like, what am I trying to do? So what is the purpose of this? So for example, if I give you at the moment, we have a focus on sustainability in store this month. So whenever we first decided to do this campaign, we were like, right, who are we trying to talk to? What's the customer? What is the message we're trying to give to the our customer? And whenever we spoke about that, it really is like Gen Zers and that younger customer base are really focused on sustainability. So we wanted to speak probably more directly to them. And we were like, right, so how do we do that? So that kind of dictated the type of product that we used automatically. And then because it was a sustainable window, we wanted to make sure that our props were all sustainable. So we're like, right, what do we have at our fingertips that isn't going to cost the earth? Because that's the whole purpose of sustainability. So for us, we actually shred our own packaging and store here. So the cardboard that comes into the building, we shred it and we reuse that for our packing for online. So we were like, oh, that could make a really cool shape. So we actually use those as the prop for the window to tie in with sustainability. And we kind of just build on that. So again, the starting point for me a lot of the time is who are we trying to talk to and what the message is that we're trying to give to that person. And just try to follow it through then. So as I say, there was no point in us doing a big, massive sustainability window and not have sustainable props in there as well. So it's just making sure that there's consistency in your message as well. So that's just one example of it. But like when it comes to ideas, a lot of the time it's just researching. Like I find like I'll just go on and Google things. If it's like, even if it's just the word sustainability, and just go to Google Images, and it could be a picture of a tree, it could be a picture of a cardboard box, but it could be something you'll be like, oh God, we could use that and make this out of it. And I find that Pinterest is a really good resource because a lot of VMs use that as a source anyway to share their work. So it's a really good starting point if you just go on and type in visual merchandising ideas or anything like that there. If you are really struggling, that can really help you along as well. But like when it comes to it, I think one thing, and it was my lecture whenever I went on to do a bit of VM, said to me, it's like, think outside the box was the key. It's like there is all these rules, but when it comes to VM, it doesn't matter if someone hasn't done it before. You can still try it for the first time. And I think that's the key to it, is just think outside the box when it comes to it. So if there is this little mad idea in your head, just go for it. If it's wrong, you can just change it. And I think that's the thing with BM, it's not permanent. You can change it up.
Yes, and I guess if you're trying to use what's around you, and you know, if you do have to change it, if it didn't cost the earth to do it in the first place, you don't feel as
Yeah,
bad about having to change it. So,
yeah,
yeah, and I think that people are struggle with that initial thing. Like I have no clue what the window display is. So for example, there was a purple umbrella that my mum had, and I always think every time she had it, I just thought it was beautiful, and for some reason it stuck in my mind. And all I did for my spring window, like from February to April, was loads of purple umbrellas hanging. And you
yeah,
know, because it was just something that I loved. So I suppose drawing on your own kind of creativity and your own likes and
yeah,
dislikes and try to bring it to your product or whatever. So that's good. So start off with researching Pinterest and brainstorming, perhaps staff meeting. Like, would you pull your team
yeah.
together and get ideas or?
Yeah, like I think some of the best ideas can be like a conversation you could have in a corridor. Like somebody will just mention something, they go, "Oh, that could be a really good idea," and it can go from there. So yeah, like definitely have open conversations, and we're really lucky. We have loads of creative people here in the building, so we're always kind of to and fro. And like somebody will say something, and we'll go back and be like, "I was thinking about that you said, and what if we did this instead?" And I think it's always building on something. And I find like I have always kept like a little notebook, and if there is something, I'll do a little sketch, or I'll write down a few words, because you never know when you'll be maybe struggling for something, you're thinking, oh God, you know what if we just focused on that right now? So there's always things there. I'd say about the umbrella idea, like if because automatically when you said that, it was like April showers, so like it's automatically a really good window for April. And another thing that we try to do at times, and especially with our Christmas window, is listen to pop culture and kind of looking at what's happening and what's trending on Instagram, what's trending on TikTok, and all of these other things, because that's what people are seeing all the time. Whenever they're going onto their phones, they're scrolling through social media, and it could be a trend that you try to adapt then in a visual way. So just kind of looking out for those little cues from social media and stuff as well, can definitely help you build on ideas and stuff as well.
And then let's talk about pulling that window. Say, for example, if it was a window display, how do you pull that through to your in-store, you know, merchandise, and how does that work? Because it is important to have that theme continue, right?
Oh, definitely. And it is a difficult one depending on like how your store is like shaped. So for us, like obviously we're a department store, so our window is usually ladies, and our ladies department is actually the furthest away from the window. But how we try to do it is we try to like either have like a color theme, or like say if it is a trend theme and certain textures and stuff, we'll have notes of that on your way to the ladies department, so it's taking you on a journey. But if for example, your window was you go right into your department, so you're walking right into your ladies department. The best way to have it is that there's a direct follow-up. So it's like whatever you see in the window, you see as you come in the door. So the customer doesn't have to work for it. It's that whole idea of you see it, you buy it. So it'll be either the same colorway, the same tones. It should have the same tone of voice. Because it feels comfortable automatically for that customer as soon as they come in. And repetition is really, really key when it comes to visual. So having those same colors repeated as they come in automatically makes you feel a little bit more comfortable in the space. But the easiest way to do it is through color, texture, or if it is your props, making sure you share them out and have some in the window, but then some as you enter into your department or that main space as you come into your store. And again, this just come into my head whenever we're talking about it. It's making sure there's a little bit of room whenever you come into either your store or the department, and not have anything too on top of a customer, because it can feel really overwhelming. So what we always try to do, and this is in every department in the building, that you'll notice there's always a little bit of space between the door of the department and the first either reel or display of mannequins, and it just gives a little bit of time for the customer to digest where they're at and take in that space, because otherwise it can be very overwhelming, especially if you've got a lot of product to offer. Having that little bit of room of right, giving that customer that time to decide, okay, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right, or wherever it may be. It just gives them a little bit of breathing space.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I suppose a lot of people are restricted to the amount of space that they have, but leaving
Yeah,
that wee bit of space might just result in a sale, which is what
yeah.
it's all about.
And even if you are restricted in space, something I will say is like go height wise if you can. So if you can't actually take it back, take it up. Because again, it'll still create that illusion of space. So because everything's not at ground level. So take your mannequins up, put them up on a big prop if you can, up on a table or something. Just take the height up. It'll definitely help with that kind of spatial awareness as you come into your department or store.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so carry the theme through in store with color and props and leaving a bit of space. Okay, so what are the key things that businesses need to think about when, say, if they're starting off with their window display? Like, people don't know where to start. So where do you start when you're doing a window display? Because once you start, it's very easy to pull it all together, isn't it? But it's
Yeah.
starting off. So, and the maintenance is really important because a lot of people struggle and don't do this. So tell us about starting and maintenance.
So like whenever you're starting off, like what we do is like we plan. So say for example, with the sustainability window, obviously we needed all sustainable products. So we went through and picked everything that we knew we had for that was sustainable. And then it needs to have consistency. So there's no point in having a window display that has a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green. There needs to be consistency and flow there. So you need to make sure that there is balance between your prints, your patterns, and your color. And that is one of the key things when it comes to visual. There needs to be balance. So for example, on the front of our window, we have 4 panels. We have approximately 3 mannequins in every panel. So how I try to do it is, so if there's a little bit of yellow on the first mannequin, I'll do it on the 3rd mannequin, I'll do it on the 5th mannequin. So it'll balance it out throughout the window so that you're not seeing a lot of yellow on one side and none on the other. Same with print and pattern. I make sure that if it's on a top in one place, it'll be a trouser somewhere else, or it'll be in the middle in a dress. This is where you have to really get into the nitty gritty and really plan out your outfits beforehand. So you're making sure that there is a really clear balance of it, because it might seem like a lot of work, but whenever you put it together and actually present it in the window, there's this element of calm about it. And a customer will be more likely to stop at that point and be like, oh, I really like that top, or look at that. And again, what we try to do is just make sure that there is flow between it. So it's almost guiding them from that end of the building right up to the door and encouraging them to come on ahead and then. So the balance of pattern, print, and color for me is key in getting that right.
So just to stop you there, how did you decide that it was yellow? I know you just used that as an example. Do you decide on key trends? How do you actually start with which product to use? I think that's what people would struggle. Like, I don't even know what to put into the window. Is it your favorite piece? Is it I don't know. Tell me how you start.
So how it really depends, but I think the main thing is like for like say for example, like at the start of the season, like so say for start of spring and start of summer, autumn and winter, I always try to go full trend. So have a time of year where you just do the main trends of the season. So whatever that may be at the time, and just go with that. I think other times what we tend to do is maybe just pick a color theme, or if there is like a campaign on. So for example, every so often we might launch a video, or we might just do a little photo shoot or something like that. And what we try to do then to make it really cohesive and feel like a whole store campaign is, if it is in the video, we'll take those direct outfits that have been shot on the model, we'll put those exact ones into the window, so that there's a really clear thread between the message we're given online and the message we're given in the store. But like when it comes to the product, I think they have to be related, I think. So like for example, like we've got a lot of brands, as you know from being here many times, and we kind of we have a lot of stuff for younger people, we have a lot of stuff for like middle-aged customers, a lot of products for an older customer. So it's making sure that whatever message you're putting in there isn't confused, so that there's a very clear look. So I always try to think, right, what customer are we trying to speak to with this display? So for example, there's times where we do occasion wear and it's mother of the bride, so it's making sure that the props are appropriate for that. So we're not going to go like mad spray painting and really architectural shapes and stuff. We normally go softer and go floral and things that are more appropriate for the event, because you want to try to take the customer into the space that they imagine they're going to be wearing these outfits, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So that's one of the processes that I go through. But as I say, color is probably one of the easiest things, like in color therapy. And as a visual, like it's one of the things that you learn really early on is like how color can influence people and their moods and everything else. And I will say, if anybody hasn't got one, as a business owner, buy yourself a color wheel. They're like a couple of euro in a craft shop, and a color wheel will basically tell you, and again goes to home interiors, everything, will basically tell you what colors work best with each other. So the likes of complementary colors are usually opposite each other on the color wheel, and if you kind of take the rule of 90% of one color and 10% of the other color, it really, really works in terms of display. And again, a customer might not know why they really like looking at this, but it's because of the color theory behind it. So for example, purple and yellow work really well together, but like it'll be 90% purple and like it could be a little yellow flower or something in a mad bouquet of something else. But it's trial and error when it comes to that, because it takes a lot of time to get used to working with color therapy. But a color wheel is a really good place to start. And what you'll find, especially if you work with a lot of brands do a lot of the work for you, and they use that in their design process. So like their designers are sitting down with a color wheel and going through color therapy with their prints. So whenever you actually look at the color wheel, if you go to your shop floor, you'll find a lot of your designers are doing it for you. So it makes that easier then whenever you're going to try to take that to the window and put a display together, because they're doing a lot of that kind of like theory for you. But colors are the easiest way to kind of carry it through and kind of say, right, I'm going to go for red this month, or I'm going to go for blue or denim or whatever that feature may be, and then kind of come in then with the balance of your pattern, print and color then through.
Oh my God, I love it. That's brilliant. That's going to help so many people just to get started. The color wheel, I've never done that before, but it makes sense. And then,
oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. And yeah, so what about maintenance and changing windows? This is a thing that people, I notice when I'm out and about and stuff, what's the rule of thumb? What should people be thinking about when maintaining a window and changing a window? Like how often, and the maintenance and all of that?
So it's kind of changed. Like we try to change our window every 2 weeks. Something really exciting could come in, like a really good product that we're all really excited about, and that could change. We could change it after 3 or 4 days because we just want to get that product out there for our customer. And those things do change. And as a business, you have to be adaptable, and most people are. But as a general rule of thumb, like every 2 weeks is where you need to leave it. And really, one of the main reasons is for it, so you can actually identify whether that window is working and whether that product is selling. Because if you're putting it in for a couple of days and you're taking it back out, you haven't really had time to identify whether that has been a strong window display for you and the products have sold and you've had a good response from customers. Like where if you leave it for 2 weeks, you've got a good opportunity there to get some customer feedback, identify whether it's going through the till and the sales are coming in. So I would say 2 weeks it would be a good rule of thumb. What we try to do in terms of like display in the window, we'll put like say a certain theme in for 4 weeks. So the actual like props and things will sit in the window for a month, but we'll change the product, refresh the product after that 2 week period again, just to make it fresh, because 4 weeks is a very, very long time to leave the same product in. But we want, again, repetition is very good for customers. So if they see the same thing over and over again, it's very comforting to them. So that's why we would leave the props in for the 4 week period, but change the actual garments then. So whether it is clothing or homeware or whatever it may be, we'll try to change that out after that 2 week mark. And then I think just even things like cleaning and things like that there, like you should be looking at that like almost on a daily basis, even if you're just walking into the one, walking past in the morning as you're coming to open up the shop. Just looking, you might not need to do it every day, but just making sure you're checking it every day, because it could be just some hand paws on the outside of the window. It could be a little dead. Flies are the worst thing, and especially with the heat of the lights in the window. So it's just those things like having that kind of visual check as you're walking into the shop in the morning, just so you know, right, I need to hoover on today, or I need to polish that glass today. But because it is those little things to kind of make sure it's totally polished and finished, because the window is really that first conversation you're having with your customer, and it technically is a 24-hour advertisement for your business. Whenever you don't know who's walking past in the evening for a walk, walking past in the morning before you're opening, and they could be like, oh, I was past McElhinneys today and I saw a lovely jacket at the window. So making sure that it is 100% all the time is super important.
Dig podcast is all about educating my listeners, but it's so important to me that it is also a place to gain exposure. Each week we open up the podcast to brands and business owners to pitch to you guys.
My name is Louise Conn. business owner of Benone Getaways. I am delighted to sponsor Series 4 of the Dig podcast and be featured as one of Caroline's guests. Benone Getaways is a luxury resort based on the Causeway Coast, walking distance from Benone Beach. It has spectacular views of Benevena Mountain and the hills of Donegal. We are open all year round for that perfect beachside escape. The resort consists of 6 unique luxury glamping pods and 2 self-catering holiday homes. 4 of our pods come with their very own private hot tubs. All of our pods have personal fire pits and our guests can enjoy the amazing chill and grill barbecue hut. Take advantage of getting the family together or even a group of friends and book an unforgettable stay. Our resort is in the heart of Benone, close to an amazing activities centre, mini golf, surf school, walking distance from a bar and restaurant. Benone Getaways is a great base for exploring the north coast and visiting the top tourist attractions such as Mussenden Temple, Giant's Causeway and many more. Just an hour's drive from us is both Belfast and Derry/Londonderry, and we are only 5 minutes away from the Lochfoyle Ferry, the gateway to Inishowen. After a long hard day exploring, pop open a Prosecco and gather round the fire pit, or soak in your very own private hot tub. Benone Getaways can cater for all occasions, including birthdays, anniversaries, hen parties and many more. Get in touch and create your very own tailor-made experience, which can make memories that last a lifetime. Start your giant adventure at Benone Getaways. Find us on all the socials at Benone Getaways or on our website www.benonegetaways.co.uk.
So I have a funny story. Whenever I was doing my visual merchandising in my shop, and I probably wasn't paying as much attention to the I put a lot of attention into actually getting it created, but life got busy and wasn't paying attention to the upkeep. And say I was in the second week of putting pumpkins in the window at Halloween, and a customer came into my shop and was like, "Do you know that your pumpkin has went all smushy on top of a load of jeans?" So I had them like propped up, for height and stuff. And it ruins ruins clothes, like it really does. And that really brought my attention. And even to my staff saying, "Girls, we need to be checking our windows every single day." And it really reinforced that for me. So I was just thinking about that time whenever you were talking. But I guess people just think to put all that effort in, but it's just like everything you would brush your hair every day, even though you brush it the day before. So
this is it.
Same kind of thing. So how often should people change? So I know there's probably people freaking out going, "Oh my God, every 2 weeks," but you explained that very well. There are 2 weeks the clothes, 4 weeks the props. And I suppose if you put a lot of effort in as a small business owner, maybe spent a bit of a budget, 6 weeks even for the props and changing the clothes more often might even probably be okay, right?
100%, because you can just do a little refresh on your props, just change them around the window. And again, that's one thing like that a lot of businesses feel that they need like really extravagant props. Like a lot of the time you don't, like simple is best often. And because what you want is your product to do the speaking for you. You just want other things to complement it then. But the product is the main thing at every point. Like visual merchandising is silent selling at its best. So I think that simple is better. So like don't like stress yourself out. Like if you have to keep your props in for that little bit of time to get your money's worth out of it, because that's what you want. You want to make sure that you're getting longevity out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are the best at what you do, and now you've moved into the online space and hit it with as much impact as you have when you're actually in your stores. So this is what I think some people, you could go into their beautiful bricks and mortar store, but because we've now emerged into this new digital world, they're finding it hard to bring that message in, that visual element to their online presence. So can you talk to us a wee bit about that and how important that is?
Yeah, and like for some like really big businesses, like there is people who do visual merchandising but for online, because it's about how you list your product. So what product sits beside what product online, like on your carousel, so your landing page, whenever you go online, what product you're showing to people. So like again, it should be just a really consistent and clear message. So if there's a campaign on in store, it should follow through online. Like you can do add-ons online as much as you can do add-ons in store. So it's like if there's a dress, is there a pair of shoes or a bag or a jacket or something that can complement that? Like that is visual merchandising basically for the online space. And it's a whole different field. It's very new for a lot of people, but it's just to be mindful of it, and it's not to be scared of it, and kind of see it as an opportunity to kind of take your business to the next level. But I think just having a clear thread as a start point. So if you have like a certain theme in your window or a certain campaign running in your store, that there carries through to online. So whenever you land onto your web address, that it feels like you've just landed at that bricks and mortar store. Like there should be consistency between the both. And I think that's the easy way to do it. And then you can get into the nitty gritty of how your products are listed, consistency with your color palette and things like that there. So there's so much you can do to make your website that little bit visually appealing. But the easiest thing to do is just make sure that your store and your web store are talking to each other, and so that they don't feel like separate entities, basically.
Yes, and then also then for social, that should be another aspect where it follows through as well, right?
Oh, definitely. And like what we try to do is make sure that say for example, we're doing denim campaign, that you'll see it on the website, you'll see it when you come in store, but then you'll also see it on social. So that again, go back to that element of repetition, that customers are seeing it again and they're thinking, oh God, should I be buying denim? Is this something that I should be looking at? And again, that's what you're wanting to do. You're just wanting to get a message out there to customers, is that this is what we're focused on right now. What do you think? Do you want to buy these pair of jeans? And again, it goes back to that element of enticing your customer to look at your product, basically, and having a consistent message through all of your channels is really, really key to that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about all the listeners and the different things that they do. And, you know, I know there's a lot of photographers listening to the podcast just because people would give me feedback. So I'm thinking, if you were a photographer and you were doing Easter photo shoots, that your website, when people land, should have the yellows and the daffodils, or the Easter concept, which should also be on your social media. So visual merchandising for the service-based is as important now, because they're all trying to promote themselves online as the product-based, right? I'm just trying to make it relevant to them, because it's relevant for all the businesses.
Oh, definitely. And you have to always think of it from a customer point of view. Like you said, like if you were going to organize a photo shoot for your family for Easter or something like that, there, you want to go on and see an example of that. And even if it's not a typical Easter family portrait, but the colors on that site, like the yellows and those soft colors that you normally see around Easter time, even just having that presented to the customer alongside a nice family portrait totally helps with that psychology of being like, oh, that's really pleasant. And again, you might not totally understand why you particularly like it, but it goes back to that psychology of, it's because in their head they're thinking Easter, no different than Christmas and red and all that. That's what they want to see or expect to see. And you don't have to be so literal with it. Sometimes it can be those soft little cues, like the color palette that you're using, or little props and different bits and pieces like that. But it's totally adaptable to every element of any kind of business, because it is experiential, and that's what it's about. It's about that experience and the customer journey. And whether your journey is a physical one in a store, an online process, or a service-based one, I think no matter what, merchandising and visual merchandising is totally relevant, because it is the silent seller, like I described it as before, and it does all of the things you want a really good salesperson to do, but just quietly.
I know. And there's this here opticians that I go to for my wee boy, and you know, it's for to get his eyes tested. And Richie, if you ever need to have an experience in an optician, like, how is this? The minute I go in, the smell, right, and the fresh flowers on the desk, and the bright colors that are enticing me into the kids area, and then the cup of tea they give me when I'm waiting in the beautiful cup that was, I want to go there for the rest of my life, even though I'm hoping my kids' eyesight improves in a few years. But I mean, they hit me as like a service-based that are bringing visual and sensory in. It's Barrett's Opticians in Drumore, by the way. I love to always shout people out, but I mean, they're a service-based that don't forget about the visual and sensory experience. So when you're talking about that, that's what it reminds me of as well. So it's definitely important. I'm sorry, I'm leading into all these different businesses.
No, not at all.
Is there any online resources, but you did mention Pinterest there, that you can recommend to keep up to date with trends or for inspiration? So is there anything else that people would need to know about?
Yeah, there's like, especially nowadays, there's just so many resources online. So if you're not the most creative person, that's absolutely fine, because there's so many other people out there sharing stuff for people to take inspiration from. And I think there's no harm in taking inspiration from what someone else has done. The Business of Fashion, so BOF, is a really, really good resource. Like, even if you just go on and follow, a lot of these have really, really active Instagram pages that you can follow. So the Business of Fashion BOF is really good for like trends and info on what other brands are doing. And it's really, really good because it's really current. So it has like everything that's happening at Paris Fashion Week, all of those things. And although that doesn't feel totally relevant right now, that's what a lot of buyers and shops will see when they go out. Maybe in 6 months' time, they're going to see little notes to that. So it's just kind of gets you prepared for, right, this is what my next season could possibly look like. So it's a really good resource. Pantone is obviously great just for color use and how you can use it, and obviously just to be totally aware of what the trendy colors are, because you'll see that it transfers not just from home interiors but to textiles and through to fashion. So following Pantone as well is a great opportunity. WGSN is great. They're forecasting and an analytical kind of type website. Now, they do give some information free of charge, but you can sign up for a subscription with them and they send you like trend reports and stuff. If it is something you really want to invest in, they'd be an excellent resource to follow along with, because they're going to give you like way in advance, so you can totally prepare as a business and have a strategy in place for like you're almost like up to 12 months in advance with them, because they are so far ahead when it comes to trend prediction. So they are a great resource. Visual Merchandising News is a really good page on Instagram that to follow, and they just share like really good examples of visual merchandising from around the world. So whether that's in-store display, new store openings, like advancements in retail, it's just a really good place to follow. VM Life is another Instagram page. Again, does the same thing as the previous one. It just kind of shares nice images from what other visuals are doing from around the world, which is great. Don't be afraid to go on and follow like creative pages. So like say creative directors or creative managers or visual merchandisers from other stores, because you're getting to see like real life people work in real life spaces. So it might feel a little bit more attainable because you're seeing what that product looks like translated from a window to in store. So there's loads of people out there just to go on. If you just type in visual, you'll see pages and pages and pages of people. Other things, there's really good books, and again, it's probably seemed really old school to even suggest books, but Tony Morgan's a really great author. I have some of his books and I've had them for absolute years. I think I have them since I was 19, and I still go back to them now. So you can get them on like online, Amazon, and a few other places. But Tony Morgan's the author, and he does a few different books about like the world's best window displays, visual merchandising basics. It kind of gives you a little bit of a toolkit there to kind of start building again if this is very new for you. It's almost like a little Bible for VM, because it has so many resources in there and like really great examples of how to go like to the max with VM, but also how to just do it in a very simple way and just focus on the smaller things. So they would be kind of the main things that you can use. And as I said already, like Pinterest is definitely a great resource because there's so many people sharing great things there, and that's from all over the world, and it's just at your fingertips.
Yeah, so I'm going to, in the description of this podcast, if you fire me over all those, did you just say it in an email, and I'll put those all, because people will be walking and driving when they're listening to this and maybe want to click back in later, so I'll list those all for everyone listening. So let's talk about the famous Christmas window displays. Like, they give me goosebumps every year, and that is not an easy thing to achieve for people to give your customers goosebumps, but once you have that is the ultimate goal, isn't it? But how soon do you start planning those amazing displays, Richie? And do you believe that small businesses can have a big impact with their displays even with a really small budget, like the likes of the excuse me, the way you became famous for that, like, can that be achieved locally in small towns for a business? Like, tell us about the Christmas thing that happens up there. It's magic.
So like with the Christmas window, like, believe it or not, like, we normally kind of have the theme kind of set down when we're currently working on the Christmas window. So while we were implementing for the Dreamers, we were having the conversation about what we're going to do for this year. And we've got the full concept done, so it's ready to go. Like, it's just about now, like, we're actually just myself and Catherine, one of the visuals in store, we're in like our little prop area, and we're like kind of going through some stuff. We're like, we can use this and we can use this and we can use this. So the full concept and idea is there, and we just have regular conversations about it now up until usually about September time, that's when we start to actually build all our sets, start to kind of get all the colorways done, anything in terms of like our interactive kind of elements and our movements that we're going to want in the window. But that's when we start to actually build it. But like, as I say, like we have the full concept for this year is done. So,
Wow.
and it nearly needs to be just for yourself, like for us anyway, because it has become such a spectacle now for us. And it happened kind of gradually for us. And like, again, it kind of goes to the second part of your question about can other businesses do it? We didn't always do this. It just kind of built, it was like we always did a Christmas window, but it kind of got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And the one thing I will say to people is that not a lot of people realize, but like we make a lot of stuff ourselves. There is a few key props we'll buy, but again, there's not huge budgets behind a lot of visual, and this goes down to every business. So we buy a few key things, but we make as much as possible. So for example, last year, the moon that was a key part of our window was made out of the tissue paper that comes in our shoe boxes that get delivered to our shoe department, and we just paper mache'd it. So that's where that came from, and we just put some paint on it. And then some of the parts of the sets we've used for the past 4 years, and we have plans to reuse it for this year again. So I think it's being clever about the pieces that you are using. So is it adaptable? Can you repaint it? Can you repurpose it? What would this look like if I did this with it? And that's one of the key things we do. And again, this is where small businesses can really get in on it. Is like, if you are doing something, it's like, right, if I get this now, could that be something else next year? Or again, paint works wonders. And like, as I say, we've been using some parts of the set for the past 5 years now. Well, by the time we get this year, it'll be 5 years we've been using it. So it is totally achievable for a small business. It's just looking at everything that you have in your toolkit and just thinking, what else could that be? And that's what we always try to do. And it's like what myself and Catherine were doing yesterday. It's like, right, could this look like this if we just did this with it? And I think it goes back to the earlier comment of thinking outside the box. And like, I think we always look at every single thing we have and be like, what if we just put a costume on that? Or what if we just put some chicken wire on that? And like a lot of the things, like, I don't know if you remember the jungle window from a few years ago, but there's a big elephant in the window, but no one actually realized that the elephant wasn't actually real. It was just the back part of the elephant and a trunk. There was nothing actually in the middle part because it was made out of paper mache. But the way we just placed all the other props made it look like a massive elephant. So you can just be very clever, force perspective, and do all those. But like, as I say, like for us, it's got to a point now where it's like we're very lucky where we have the luxury of maybe not going full Christmas every year. So like, for example, for the Dreamers wasn't traditionally a Christmas window, but for us now, the window experience is a family day out. We're a family-run business. We're independent, and the whole experience of the Christmas window has changed from what it would have been. And it's about people coming together and having like a hot chocolate in our cafe and coming down and having the kids see all the little secret moments that we put throughout the window. Because that's one thing we really work hard on, is making sure that the windows are really kid-friendly. And we put little secret moments that are always at eye level for kids so that only them can see them. So whenever they come up to the window, it's the first thing they see. So there's these really special moments just for them. But it's a magical thing to be a part of, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it. You do feel a lot of pressure sometimes, I think, because you're like, oh God, can we beat that one, or can we do better? But there's so many great people here in the business, and there's so many supportive people here in the business, that even when, like for example, John never wants to know the idea. He always likes to be surprised. But whenever I go and pitch the idea to Sandra, like, it's always that element of, oh God, it's like, this is it now. I'm actually putting words to this actual campaign and what this will physically look like. But everyone, even though it might be like completely mental, like last year was like, to Sandra, we're going to space. And she's like, okay. Because like, really, it sounds mental, but like, she trusts us to deliver the right message. And we always try to have like a nice story behind our window, because our business is a lovely story of how John started and how we got to here. And we try to always have a nice story behind our window to tell as well, because people like stories and like storytelling, and it gives them something to believe in, and especially at Christmas for kids, it's nice to be able to tell them a story.
I know. And, you know, whenever I'm listening to you, like, it's not, you're saying it and it's true. It's not just about the window. Like, you create that whole, like, people come and wait for the light switch on. You build up that anticipation. And I suppose if there's small business owners listening, they can do, like, you can do this. You can, you know, reveal your window to your audience, and you know, you don't have to be McElhinneys to create that drama among your community. And you know, I want people listening to realize this is relatable to your, no matter what size your business is, you can create that magic amongst your people, but you have to build it, right, Richie? You have to build the anticipation. You have to, you know, let them know the special reasons why this is.
Yeah, and I think you have to, like, I think belief in yourself, I think, is a business, and knowing that you can do it. And because if it is just like, if you decide this year is going to be your year, you're going to start it, that's the first step you're taking to kind of take this to the next level. And like, whatever you invest this year is going to help you out next year, and whatever you have next year is going to help you out for the year after. It'll not happen overnight. You have to build on it, and I think that's what happened with us. We just built on it, built it, and built it. So I think it's an opportunity for absolutely anybody to do this, because it is about the experience again, and having that like special moment. And like, for us, we always like to kind of reference creating memories. Because that's what we hope, is that like a child will have a really nice memory in years to come of coming to see our window, having a nice hot drink on a really cold evening with their family as they take in all of these magical spaces that we've hopefully created for them. And like, that's achievable with the world's smallest window or the world's biggest window. Like, it's, again, it's creating that experience for them.
Unreal. And you know, I suppose always people are thinking, oh my god, I don't have the money, but like you said, using things again and again. Like, I remember I bought an old bike from a charity shop, and it was from a Christmas display, and I was putting all the letters for Santa into the basket, and I sprayed it red. But then I was like, oh, I need to use that again. And then in the spring, I sprayed it white and put daffodils in the basket. But that was all there was in the window. Like, so there is ways. People just need to get out of the headspace that it costs a fortune, because it absolutely doesn't.
Yeah. And as you say, like, looking to charity shops for little props and stuff like that there is so key. Like, and again, like, always kind of be aware of your surroundings, I always say, because like, we could be walking in the back corridor in business here, and we could see something, the most random thing sitting there, and we'll be like, oh, we'll take that, we'll use that there, that'll be great. Because a lot of the stuff that we end up using, like it is something that we have found, or something that we've repurposed, or it's something that began as something very different. And as you say, the simple thing like the bike, changing the color and the little elements around it, and you can carry that through. Like, you could have it in every window if you wanted, about just changing the color of it, and changing those little props. Like, so I think it's, be like cost conscious as much as possible, but know that if you are going to invest in a piece, know that you can confidently say, no, you know what, if I invest in this now, I can do this with it, or I get this with it. And we try to get as much out of our props as possible. And like, even like today, we're putting up an arch that is our normal Christmas arch, and it's going to be a Mother's Day arch today, but we still use the Christmas decoration underneath it. So the green garland, we just put actual spring flowers and on top of it. So again, it's just thinking outside the box again on what you can actually turn something into. I think no matter what it looks like now, it can look like something very, very different whenever you put your mind to it.
No, that's amazing. Oh my God, I could talk about this all day. As you can tell, I absolutely love this element, because I just think that it makes people feel good when the effort is put in, and you guys do it the best that I've ever seen throughout the country. So thank you so much for sharing all that. Like this is invaluable free advice that people pay for. So Richie, I can't thank you enough for giving it, because you know, it's expert advice from someone who is winning awards all over the country and further afield. So thank you for doing that. Where can people see you now in your full flight? How can they follow you or the team or the visual merchandising aspect of McElhinneys?
So like, I actually have my own work page. It's just McElhinneys Richie. So you can follow me on Instagram, and I share like product and things, but then I also share like some of the display pieces and different bits and pieces, and you can kind of follow along the processes there. So, and even if you have any questions or anything, pop them along to there. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody has, because as I say, there's lots of bits and pieces. And I could talk about this literally all day because I feel so passionate about it. And I just think the impact it can have on your business is just huge. And if you're not doing it, or you're doing it in a small way, I think maybe set yourself the goal of like investing even 10% more into it in the next 6 months, and you'll see the absolute difference, not only in your customer experience in the store, but also in your sales. And that is the key to the to business is sales and making more money. And visual merchandising is such a key part of that. And I think sometimes it's maybe overlooked as an important factor of your selling, but it's such an easy way as well to help with your sales.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Richie, for being a guest on the Dig podcast. And I can't wait to see that Christmas window display this year. No pressure.
I'm saying nothing.
Good man. Thank you, Richie.
Thanks so much, Carly.
Remember, if you do listen to an episode, screenshot it and share it on social. Remember to tag me so that I see it and I can reshare on my platform. I love to see everyone tuning in each week. It has been an honour to be your host. I look forward to our next episode.